But I am saying that you have to be intentional with the words that you choose to use and how you communicate with your partner. People can't fix what they don't know is broken. If your partner does not know that there is an issue with something, they will reoffend. If you are out here holding on to stuff that happens and feeling some type of way about it, not talking about it, you are only leaving room for things to fester and explode. Don't do that. Do not do that. Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome to lesson 2, where we're talking about hard conversations and communication. Now, let me do a quick check-in. How y'all feeling? Y'all all right? We doing okay? How did last week go? Okay, did we bring up some stuff as it pertains to trust? Did we work through some stuff as it pertains to trust? Let's talk about it, because I don't want you to go through these lessons and then walk away feeling like you haven't resolved the issues that are present based on each topic, okay? So here's what I have to say about hard conversations and communication. There is nothing better for your relationship than expressing how you feel. You have to be comfortable with sharing your emotions and your feelings with your partner and your thoughts. You have got to be comfortable. If you're not, this is the time to work on it. This is why I'm asking, are you two kinds of ready? Because you might be wanting that relationship, but if you're not comfortable sharing your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions with your partner, then you're not really ready. So, what does that look like? If they ask you how you're doing, don't just say fine all the time. I know we have this like automatic, response kind of tuned into our head, like, oh, I'm good, how are you? Or I'm fine, thank you, or I'm good, I'm okay, whatever. Time out for all that. How are you? What's really going on? And share. And when your partner, if you ask your partner how they're doing and they authentically share how they're doing, you got to be attentive and listen. You have to actively listen. Don't just haphazardly ask the question of how you're doing. Be interested in the answer and follow up. Even if they say they're good, you can still follow up on a I'm good. Oh, really? That's good to hear. What's going on in your life right now that, you're feeling really good? Whatever. If they share something that's not so good, right? Showing some empathy, reflecting what they're feeling, asking how you can help, dropping some words of comfort, whatever the case is, being supportive. Okay? And if your partner does that for you, be receptive and appreciate that. And make sure you express that you appreciate that. Oh man, people ask me how I'm doing all day, and I really just shared with you how I'm doing, and I can tell that you really cared. I can tell that you were really interested in the answer, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you asking how I am. I appreciate you checking on me. I appreciate you for following up and sharing those comforting words. That meant a lot to me. You have got to be intentional. You cannot just go through the motions if you're going to have success in a relationship. Because we need authentic connection. If you have an opinion about something, share that opinion. If something doesn't sit right with you, if your partner has done something that's harmed you, share that with them. Let them know. Hey, when you said X, Y, and Z, I really felt blase blah. I wonder why you said that. I'd like to know more about why you felt the need to share that or to do that or to say that, whatever the case may be. Be inquisitive in this manner as well. Because even if you feel some type of way about something your partner's done, it could just be how you perceived it and not how they intended it. We got to be careful with our stuff, and that we're not projecting when we're communicating as well. And that we're honoring the fact that our feelings are valid because they are ours and they're based on our experience and our interpretation of every moment. And we got to understand that our feelings aren't always facts, right? We may feel like something was disrespectful or harmful or hateful or whatever the case is, but that does not mean that that was the way it was intended to be. You may feel like that person was trying to hurt your feelings or embarrass you, but maybe they were actually trying to celebrate you or show some kind of, regard for what it is that you do or something about you. But that's just not the way that you took it, which is why communication is so important. If you are out here holding on to stuff that happens and feeling some type of way about it, not talking about it, you are only leaving room for things to fester and explode. Don't do that. Do not do that. If your partner does something that offends you, you have to communicate how you feel about it, but not in a manner where you are attacking them. You never attack your partner, no matter how you feel. If your feelings are hurt, if you are offended, if you feel bad or negative in any kind of way about something, you go and you deal with that first, but you do not attack your partner. Your partner is not your opponent. Your partner is your teammate. So when you have to bring things up, you bring things up with the thought that we're on the same team and we just need to get some clarity around whatever this issue is so that we leave no room for negativity to come in. So that we leave no room for the opponent, whoever that might be in your mind, to get a leg up on us. And on the other hand, you have to be receptive if your partner comes to you to share with you something that they feel that you've done that didn't sit well with them. Just like you would want them to be open and receptive to what you have to say, you have to extend the same grace to your partner. You have to give them the same respect that you desire yourself. Reciprocity is key. You have to give what you expect. You have to give what you desire. So when that person comes to you and shares something, your ears and your heart have to be open to receive. And it has to be okay for them to share with you and to call you out on your stuff if you're going to want to share with them and call them out on their stuff. And again, calling your partner out on their stuff, it's not about making them look bad. It's not about you winning. It's not about you setting yourself above them. It is literally just about clearing the air, getting some clarity, figuring out what the problem is so that we can stay airtight over here as a unit together. And so that your person knows you and what you need. People can't fix what they don't know is broken. If your partner does not know that there is an issue with something, they will reoffend. And it's not intentional. If I say a certain word and it's a trigger for you, if you don't tell me that, I don't know that I'm triggering you. And I'm just saying this word out of habit. It's a part of my vocabulary, whatever. But you're over there feeling a type of way. If you never say anything, how will I ever know? And that's just a small example, but that's the gist of it, right? If you don't say anything, your partner will never know. They cannot address or adjust where they don't know there is a need. So express yourself. Provide context when you're expressing yourself. When you're sharing, provide context. When you're asking questions, provide context. So many times I've seen where people talk about discussions they've had in their relationship, and there's a conversation that goes sort of like this. Well, they asked me blase blah, and I felt like that was blase blah. And the other person is like, well, I only was asking you this because blah, blah, blah. And then the other person is like, well, it didn't seem like that to me because blah, blah, blah. So there was no context. And where there is no context, there is room for assumption. You don't want to leave room for questions. You don't want to leave room for assumptions. I'd really like to know a bit more about your relationship with so-and-so because it seems like blase blah, and I wonder how that impacts blase blah. In my experience, when this happens, blah, blah, blah can be true. I'm wondering if that's true for your situation. Just giving y'all some words, some stems to fuel the conversation, right? To add that context. And all of this that I'm sharing, you get better at it with time and practice. The more you do it, the better at it you get. So it's okay if you go into a relationship and you tell the person that you're getting to know, hey, I'm in a season of really working on improving my communication. And I'd really like for us to have solid communication between us. And so if I seem to be trying to figure out the best way to say things, it's because I'm really working on this. Or if I happen to say something in an inappropriate way and I circle back, please excuse me, I'm really working on being better at this. Or if you say something that's off, you just say, you know what? I recognize that I could have said that better. I understand that I didn't provide enough context in this situation. I'm sorry. Can I ask this question again? Or can I say this again? Can I provide some context to help you better understand? And it's okay if you don't talk like that, right? I get it. I don't talk like that all the time either. I told y'all, the slang gonna come out, little country gonna come out, little geechee gonna come out. Like all these different things are going to come out of me when I speak. But when I'm in a relationship or dealing with any sort of relationship, I have to be intentional about how I say what I say. And no matter what tone I take, right? So even in this sentence, I can still say what I'm going to say in the most relaxed manner, but I'm being intentional about the words that I choose, right? I'm not saying that you have to fake the funk. I'm not saying that you have to change the way that you speak, but I am saying that you have to be intentional with the words that you choose to use and how you communicate with your partner. Now, when it comes to tone, if you're somebody who has a very loud and aggressive tone, a harsh tone, now I will tell you, yeah, you're going to have to change that. Unless you find a partner who digs that kind of thing, who that works for, who likes that, which then I'm going to be a little curious about whether there's some toxicity there, but we got to make some changes. And there is nothing wrong with doing things differently than you've already done them. You have to at some point learn to do things differently than the way that you've done them. That is called growth. That is called evolution. That is called development. You are moving into the next phase of who you are. You are evolving as a person. You are growing. You shouldn't be talking the same way that you were talking when you were 15. You shouldn't be having conversation the same way that you did at 21. We've got to grow. We've got to make some changes. We've got to do some things differently. It may take you fully out of your comfort zone, and that's good. We're not in relationships to be comfortable. The only comfort we want is with our partner. I want to be comfortable with you. I want to be comfortable in our home, but I'm not going to be comfortable in chaos. I'm not going to be comfortable in a toxic environment. I'm not going to be comfortable in dysfunction. I'm not going to be comfortable in secrets. I'm not going to be comfortable in anger and frustration. I'm not going to be comfortable in fear. I'm not going to be comfortable in a grudge. I'm not. I just can't. We're not going to do this because that is going to prevent us from having a healthy relationship. Relationships got to be healthy, just like us. When we're healthy, when we do things to improve our health, it helps us to live better lives. It helps us to live longer lives. It just improves the overall quality of our lives, which is what you want to do in a relationship. You want to improve the overall quality of the relationship. If you can do it for work, if you can do it for your body, if you can do it for your family, if you can do it for your friends, for your community, for your business, you definitely can do it for your relationship. All right, next, when it comes to communication, you have to establish communication expectations. And you have to share your communication preferences. And you and your partner have to find middle ground if there's some difference in the preferences that you have and the expectations that you have. When do we communicate about certain things? How do we communicate about certain things? What is your preference? How do you want me to share certain things with you? If you do something to harm me, how would you like for me to share that with you? If I've done something to harm you, how should I expect that you're going to share that with me? If you ever have any questions, this is how I would like for you to approach them. If I have questions, how should I approach them? How often are we going to have conversations about where we are as it pertains to the relationship and how invested we are and where we're going, the direction we're heading, and how we feel about the relationship in general? Do you prefer to have face-to-face conversations about everything, or are phone conversations okay sometimes? Now, let me also pause and say this. If text is your thing, okay. But I would like to encourage you to maybe think about not having certain conversations over text message. There is so much lost in translation in text message. You cannot perceive tone, body language, or anything like that when you're just reading words on a screen. And it's very easy to misinterpret the way somebody says something through a text message. And you could be a whole sort of kind of mad over here because you've misread the message. So I encourage you to not have any kind of difficult conversations or serious conversations through text message. And if you find yourself in a relationship where that's the only way you can talk without things blowing up and escalating, something is way wrong, and a text message conversation is not going to fix it. You guys need to do something more than that. Either separate, see a therapist, see a coach, whatever, but not keep doing that conversation through text message thing. And so when we're talking about hard conversations and communication, I feel like we have a spectrum here. On one hand, you have people who hate confrontation, who don't like hard conversations, who don't want to do it, who can't stand it, who's not here for it, who ain't trying to hear it. And then over here, you have people who love to debate, love to argue, love to bring stuff up, or just love to just talk hard things out. Like it fuels them, energizes them, they feel good about doing it, and it's no problem. Most of us are somewhere along the middle of the spectrum, right? Not so much on the extremes. But regardless of where you are, we have to make sure that what we're doing is good for our relationship. Okay? Some of us feel like having people be mad at us is the worst thing in the world. Some of us feel like if we say something, it sets us up for potentially being left by our partner or angering them or frustrating them or making them not like us. There's fear that comes up with certain topics, right? We just want to keep the peace. We don't want no problems. And we do all of that, holding it all in at the expense of our own feelings. Because we just don't want nobody to be upset. Because we just don't want to disturb the peace. Because we just don't want there to be an issue. Because we just trying to keep cool, keep calm, keep collect. Because we'll get over it. Or it'll work itself out. And that's one of the things. That's a myth that I want to dismantle when it comes to relationships. Things don't just work themselves out. Now, in some cases, over time, it may seem like things simply work themselves out. But that's not true. Something changed. Someone grew. Something developed, something evolved, and that's why things worked out. It didn't just happen by osmosis, okay? It didn't just happen. It didn't. So if things need to be worked out, there needs to be some effort. And sitting back and saying, well, hopefully something will just happen and it'll work itself out in the end, leaves your relationship open to all sorts of issues and problems. And so much can happen in between where you are and that thing working itself out if it ever does. Be intentional. Don't leave your relationship up for chance or up to chance. Don't let there be a hypothetical, well, if things go well, we could be okay. No. There is something that needs to be addressed, and we're going to address it. There's something that needs to be talked about, we're going to talk about it. There's something that needs to be done about this situation. So something's going to have to be done about this situation. Okay? So you might be on this side of things where confrontation just ain't your thing. But you are going to have to move this way where even if it means just simply being comfortable with the discomfort of confrontation, you got to get a little comfortable. Comfortable with having difficult conversations or comfortable with being uncomfortable while having difficult conversations. Whatever the case is, but they are necessary. And let me tell you this, hard conversations are healthy for relationships. You have to talk about difficult things. Yes, you get all the don't like this feelings that come up. But to resolve a thing will absolve you of those feelings. Oh, I was feeling some type of way about everything that was going on. And I really didn't want to have this conversation. But we had this conversation and now I feel so much better. Now I have clarity. Now I know what I need to do. I was stuck. I was confused. I didn't know which direction I should go, if we should be together, if we shouldn't. But because we had this difficult conversation, now I'm real clear on what I need to do and I feel good about making this decision. I can move forward. No matter what, you have to have hard conversations. And if you're in a relationship with somebody who loves to have difficult conversations and who loves confrontation, honey, ain't no running from it because they're going to have those conversations. They're going to do it because they're comfortable and it doesn't bother them and they really want to deal with stuff and get it out of the way. Now, if you are that person, hear me. You cannot force people into hard conversations. It don't work like that. Now, you literally can force them by just making them have them because you show up and you start having them. But you cannot do that if you think you're going to have a healthy relationship. You can't force anyone to speak with you about something that they don't want to speak with you about. And think on the other end, things are going to be good. Think that they're going to have positive feelings towards you. Think that they're going to be happy with you. Think that they're going to be open with sharing. Now, I don't know how many of you grew up with a parent or a guardian who was like, what happened? You better tell me what happened. Right? And you were sitting there like, you know what? I really ain't want to tell you what happened already, but now that you coming like this, I definitely don't want to tell you what happened. It's the same type of situation. It's the same type of thing. Because now I don't like the way this is going. And because I don't like the way it's going and I don't know what's going to happen on the other side of this, I really don't want to have this conversation. I already didn't want to have it, but now I really don't want to have it. So if you are that person that's okay with confrontation and having hard conversations, you have to give grace to the other person. You have to allow them to become comfortable with having hard conversations. You have to discuss those expectations and preferences so that you know how best to have those hard conversations with them. You may have a partner that says, hey, okay, I know we need to have hard conversations. Those are not my thing. When we need to have one, here's how I am going to open up that door. Here's how I'm going to let you know that there's something I need to talk about. Or here's how I need you to let me know that there's something you want to talk about so that I have time to prepare myself for the conversation. It's not just I feel some type of way, let me just go dump it up, get it off my chest. No. We're not doing that. Not in healthy relationships, we're not. Not in successful relationships, we're not. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to be graceful with our partners who may be not as comfortable with having hard, difficult conversations. You can be on that end of the spectrum, and that's good because maybe then you'll be more of the leader in having those conversations. Maybe you'll be the one who makes sure things don't get swept under the rug, but you have to be graceful with that power. We've talked about this before. That's power is something that you have to be responsible with. If you have the ability to do that comfortably, that is a power that you have to be responsible with. Okay? You've got to wield that with some great responsibility and restraint so that you're not out here creating issues in your relationship that don't need to be. You can run someone off by being too aggressive with wanting to always talk about the hard stuff and the way that you do it. And I'm going to imagine if you are having those conversations, if you're wanting to bring them up, it's not because you want to run them off, but it's because you want things to be better. So if that is the case, you have to make sure that what you're doing is actually producing the result that you want it to produce. So be wise, be smart about how you do it. Because hard conversations are inevitable, okay? They're going to happen. But you just have to make sure you're intentional about how they happen and make sure the way that they happen in your relationship is good for your relationship. All right, so now I'm going to share a few tips with helping you get comfortable with having hard conversations in your relationship. First of all, you need to disassociate yourself with the thought that confrontation and hard conversations is a negative thing, that it's bad, that it's always going to lead to conflict and pain. If that's all you've seen, of course, that's what you think. But it does not have to be true. And it should not be true. Because difficult conversations are just a natural part of life. And you should be able to have those with everyone around you. Take away the fear that comes with having hard conversations. You should never think that having a hard conversation is going to be or bring some sort of detriment to your relationship. If you can't share all of you with your partner, something is wrong. If all they want to hear is how good they are to you and how much you love them and how great they are, etc., and they can't hear you tell them about how what they do or who they are affects you in a not so pleasant way, then they're in that relationship for them and not for you. And maybe it's time to walk away. Because let's be clear, every relationship that we get into, we ain't meant to stay in. Some of them are meant to teach us things. We, as people who want serious relationships, who want committed relationships, who want partnership and commitment and marriage, we're always thinking, is this my person? Is this the one? Are we going to get married? You start thinking about what that looks like, playing out the fantasy in your head. But that's not the purpose of every encounter and every relationship. So figure that out. Can I share all of me with this person? Can I communicate with them about the things that do not work for me? Are they open and receptive to hearing things that may not be comfortable? Not because it's just hard to have a conversation, but because they don't want to hear it. Because those are two totally different things. Being someone who shies away from challenging conversations just because it's hard, and being someone who doesn't want to hear it, two totally different things. And so here's a way that you can start having some hard conversations. You open the conversation by telling that other person that you want to talk about something specific and why. And you can ask them when might be a good time for that conversation to be. When can we have this conversation? When can we talk a little bit about X, Y, and Z? Also, make sure that you are sensitive to natural openings for those certain conversations and topics. If something happens to just come up, or you're in a specific situation that pertains to what it is that you want to discuss, as long as the situation is right, as long as the setting is okay, as long as the mood is fine, take that opening. Then it happens naturally and you don't have to force it. If the opportunity arises, take advantage of it. Express your concern, share what's going on, communicate. Now, if both of you are in the headspace to talk about that thing, even if the natural moment comes, you should wait. Don't walk right in. Because timing is just as important as what you say and how you say it. You and your partner should both be in a good mental and emotional headspace when you're preparing yourselves to have difficult conversations. And most importantly, before you go having any kind of hard conversation with anyone, check your heart. Make sure your heart is in the right place. As I mentioned earlier, you do not want to be out here projecting your stuff onto anyone else. And you want to make sure that you are dealing with internal personal issues within yourself and not making them the other person's issue. I can't stress that enough. Your stuff is your stuff. It is not your partner's stuff. You have to make sure you deal with you. And even if it is a mutual thing, this is a relationship issue, make sure your heart is in the right place when you go to have that conversation. Because again, we're not attacking our partners. Hard conversations are not about pointing blame and making anyone responsible for anything, because we're both responsible in this moment for nurturing this relationship, for building this relationship, to maintaining this relationship. And we have to make sure we're both doing our part. You may even want to talk things over with whoever your trusted advisors in your life are before you raise this concern to your partner, to make sure you are dealing with the issue itself and that it is an issue of the relationship and not a personal one. When having hard conversations, you want to invite the other person in. You want to make space for them to feel safe and comfortable. Again, you do not want to use force. Using force is something that's going to make you feel better in the moment because you've blown off the steam maybe that's been building within you. But in the long run, there's still going to be an issue. And now there's probably going to be a bigger issue because you've just confounded the issue by putting one problem on top of the other. Now we just had this thing going on, but because you've come in here and forced your partner into a conversation that they didn't want to have, or they weren't ready for, they weren't prepared for, or that you didn't check your heart about first, or that really was an internal thing, then now we've got all that comes with that issue as well. And that's not good for any healthy or successful relationship. You're working backwards at that point. So invite them into those conversations. Make sure the space feels safe. Make sure they're comfortable. Make sure they're in a good headspace, and you as well. And make sure the issue remains the issue. Let the issue be the issue. Use I statements when you share how you feel. I felt blase blah when this happened. When you do blah, 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 I feel blah, or blah, 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 whatever. I have a hard time blase blah when this happens. Keep your feelings about you and keep the issue at the core of the discussion. You're not saying, hey, you're rude and disrespectful. You're saying, the other night at dinner, when you said XYZ, I felt disrespected. It felt rude to me when we were sitting at the table together, but you turned your focus to blah, blah, blah. You make your feelings about you and you let the issue be the issue. And even in that last example, you could also say something like, I really enjoy when we go out to dinner. I feel like it gives us a place to connect outside of the home. And I love being in a romantic environment with you. I really feel like we're able to connect and share with one another. And it refreshes us because it feels like we're on a date, or we are on a date. And that makes me remember all the feels that I felt when I first met you. And I really love having that refresher. I really wish that next time we could go to a different type of restaurant, because once the game came on, I feel like I kind of lost your attention. And because I love you so much, I really wanted you all to myself that night. I really wish we were able to finish having the conversation about blah, blah, blah that kind of ended abruptly when the game came on. However you say it, but again, make your feelings about you and let the issue be the issue. Again, having hard conversations brings closeness. Working through hard issues together man, when you do something with someone, especially when it's challenging, it creates this sense of unity. It creates a sense of togetherness. It creates a sense of partnership. And it communicates to the other person that you really care enough about the relationship to address whatever it is that's going on. That you wouldn't dare let things just fester or linger or go untouched to give room to issues to come. They're going to know that you're like, yo, I'm really into this. I really want this. This person is really here for me. This person really cares about where we are because they're intentional about making sure that there aren't any issues between us. That there's nothing here that could hinder us or hold us back. Also, having those hard conversations clears your conscience and it opens up mental space for positive thoughts and feelings to bloom. If you got all this stuff up here that you're frustrated about, that's going on, that's wrong, that's not right, that's blah blah blah, you're taking up space that could be lended to positivity. And when you're in a relationship, you want to have as many positive thoughts and feelings floating around as possible because that's what's going to build those natural feelings of love and infatuation and affection and desire for your partner. You ain't got no room for that if you got all the frustration and the pain and the ugliness up there. If you're always worried about the issues and there's a whole bunch of stuff just stuck that needs to be dealt with that ain't been dealt with, that you're holding, that you're begrudgingly putting aside, let that stuff go. Dump it. Evict that stuff from your mind and from your heart so that you have space for the good stuff. That's how you nurture your relationship. You give room and you make way for positivity. Having that clarity leaves no room for anything to come in, trouble to start, issues to take place. No one else can come in and fill a void that's there because your partner doesn't even know that something's wrong. And this other person comes, don't know nothing about nothing, but just showed up and happens to do this one thing or say this one thing. That's the one thing that you feel like you've been missing and upset everything. No, we're not doing that. We're going to talk this stuff out so that ain't no voids. So that we can figure out what's happening, what's wrong, what needs to be addressed. Ain't no need to get nothing outside when it's all in here. We gonna fill this house with what we need. So we ain't got to go outside to get it. This house being the relationship. Again, it builds unity, which creates strength. If you are together, if you're working together, if you're solid, if you've got this connection, if you're bonded, you're stronger. This by itself ain't as strong as this together. I can do some damage with this here together. I can't do as much with this on its own. We are going to unite together as a team, again, against our issues, against everything else that would try to come in and cause disruption to what we're building. We don't side with our issues. We don't side with our feelings. We don't side with our problems and our grievances with our partners. No. And together, we're going to do what's best for it. We don't need to be protected from our partners. You shouldn't. If you need to be protected from your partner, you need to leave that relationship. And I'm going to stop right there. Let me put a pin in that. There is never any good reason to stay in a harmful relationship. If it is harmful physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you need to exit, stage left or right, I don't care, immediately. At the first sign of abuse, at the first sign of you feeling like you need to be protected from your partner, you need to jump ship. Right then, right there. Promises to never do it again. Sob stories about I never meant to. I'm so sorry, I don't know where that came from. Excuses of sad backstories. Don't matter. What you need to do is literally just see what's in front of you And that is something that's not healthy, that's dysfunctional, and that's toxic, and you need to jump ship. Having hard conversations allows you to find new ways to connect with your partner. You only do that through communication, even just general communication, just talking to one another. You'll learn something about your partner every time you talk to them. Please talk to your partner. Man, in relationships, sometimes I think we don't talk enough, right? Especially once we get into the relationship, right? Long term or into a marriage. It's like we're going through the day to day and we're fulfilling our roles and our duties and our responsibilities and we're doing the things we're supposed to do. And we stop talking. We don't keep communicating just in general with our partners. How was your day and why was it the way that it was? What are you into these days? Oh, I see that you bought a new blah, blah, blah. You picked up the magazine, blah, blah, blah. What's interesting? Have you read that yet? I see that you're reading blah, blah, blah book. What's interesting about it? What's your new favorite song? Or, okay, I hear you playing so-and-so's album all the time. It sounds like it's a pretty good one. How do you feel about this one compared to their last one? Hey, I haven't seen you go out with so and so in a while. Everything okay with you guys? How are you feeling about you these days? How's life in general treating? Whatever the case is, man, just have conversations. Talk to people. And it ain't always got to be a bunch of questions. It can just be general, just we chilling and we just talking, man. We just shooting a breeze. And while we're doing that, we're learning from each other and we're figuring out new ways to connect. Like, just have a conversation. Talk. Just talk. Just talk. All right, so before I let you guys go tonight, I do have a task for you. I want you to practice the art of communication and having hard conversations with someone in your life. Think right now, what's one person that you really need to discuss something with? What's one issue that you've allowed to just kind of sit that you've not really taken the time to deal with? I want you to use the tips that we've talked about in this lesson to have a hard conversation with someone or just to communicate with someone about something that you need to communicate with them about. And take your time. You don't have to do this right now, okay? Prepare yourself to do it because, again, you want to check your heart before you do it. You want to make sure you process your thoughts before you do it. You might even want to talk it over with someone else before you do it. You want to make sure that person's in a place to receive it before you do it, okay? All those things. Some of y'all need to have hard conversations to break up with the person you've been dating. I ain't saying no names. Of course, I don't know your names, right? But that might just be it. And there may be a lot to explain why. And it could be because you did something foul. And that's a hard conversation you need to have. Because let's not just pause. Let's not sit on the fact that we have hard conversations with our partners because they're always the one to blame. They're always the perpetrator. And we're always the victim. Sometimes we got to have hard conversations with people because we've done something that we need to disclose or share or discuss. So maybe that's the hard conversation you need to have. I would have been remiss to let this end without making that statement. Hard conversations aren't always about the other person and what they did. No. Sometimes it's about us. Sometimes it's about what we've done or where we are or what we're feeling that may just not be right. And we just might need to go and come clean and share that. That was for one of y'all. So whatever it is, prepare yourself and go have that conversation. At the end of the day, you'll be okay. You'll be fine. Might not feel great, but you'll be fine. And if things go the way that they should, honestly, after you've had the hard conversation, in the end, you really should feel better. And things should be better. All right, y'all. So this was lesson 2 on hard conversations and communication. If there's more that you need on this, definitely let me know. Because again, my goal is to prepare you to go out into the dating world and truly ready for the relationship you desire. All right. I'll see you guys in lesson 3.